The blue umbrella behind the dresses. I found the blue umbrella the week the weather forgot what month it was. It was folded tight and hidden behind her dresses, a shade of ocean too expensive for our city to claim, handle wrapped in leather with a brass ferrule engraved with the name of a boutique hotel by the sea. The umbrella was dry, which made it worse. It had not fallen there by accident, wet and apologizing. It had been placed like a secret that did not trust light. I touched the engraving with my thumb and smelled the faint, unfamiliar perfume that had been sneaking into our apartment. Smoke pretended to be citrus, confidence poured into a glass bottle. The closet exhaled that scent in a hush, as if the clothes had been asked to keep quiet. We were always soft on weather. In our first months, we kept the windows open when it rained just to hear the city wash its face. Mara would sit on the sill with her legs tucked up, ankles crossed, and I'd stand behind her, palms on her shoulders, feeling the tendons shift under my fingers as she laughed at nothing. We were good in kitchens and better in hallways. We would meet halfway like people who believed the distance between rooms deserved attention. At night she slept with one hand spread on my chest like she was keeping track of my breathing for later. "All I ask," she said, "is flat cotton and coffee strong enough to make decisions." I ironed pillowcases until they lay like fresh sheets of paper and learned to brew a mug that could write its own name. The drift didn't make noise at first. It arrived as rearranged objects and worse, rearranged light. Her phone learned a new tone, two bright chimes like a smaller house. It sang at midnight, then again at 12:07, and the glow lit the room in a way that did not invite me. The scent changed. Her rosemary traded for something with a mineral heart. She began to shower in the dark as if hiding from a silhouette. "Migraine," she said. The mirror fogged itself a curtain, and I learned to shave by memory. The blue umbrella belonged to a hotel called the Pelican House, a place at the coast with white railings and rooms that wear sheets like promises. We had once stood outside it on a day trip and made fun of the people taking posed pictures on the steps. "It looks like a wedding decided to become permanent," Mara said, pressing close against the wind. I told her we could come back for drinks and pretend to be uninvited. We never did. The umbrella said she'd been invited without me. I started treating the apartment like a diagram. The coffee table, once a place to rest our feet, became a map, the receipts on it coordinates. I found a bar charge from a lounge called the Beacon, the one that pretends it's a lighthouse. A pair of gin drinks with a note, sea salt, rosemary smoke. I found a lift to the theater district on a Tuesday, and then another an hour apart, arrival, departure. I made a folder on my laptop and named it Customs, because I felt like someone ferrying contraband through a country where love is taxed. Screenshots went in: calendar invites, bank charges, the log from our smart lock that said our door had been opened at 2:38 a.m. while I was asleep. I did not become a detective. I became competent. The theater entered the story on a Thursday. She said she had a late rehearsal review, though she works in marketing, not plays. "We bought a package," she said. "Brand partnership. There's a scene with our product on a bedside table. Don't judge." I nodded, because this is a century when everything wants to be in bed with a camera. She left in the camel coat I bought for her the winter we learned to like austerity. I held the blue umbrella, turned it over in my hands, and put it back behind the dresses like I was laying a trap for my own heart. I decided to watch a door. The theater stage door sits in an alley that smells like rain and old cigarettes and the sweetness of rotting wood. At 9:14 she arrived on foot with her hair pinned up like being efficient. At 9:18 a man came from the other direction in a navy jacket, shoulders rounded by the habit of leaning in. He carried a bag that looked like it contained nothing and everything. They met under the steel stairs by the dumpster the way understudies meet in poems. A glance, a check for witnesses, a touch at the elbow. Then the door took them. I know backstage. I worked a lighting gig in college, learned how a scrim could turn bodies into secrets and light into truth. I walked around to the front and bought a cheap ticket from a woman who called me "Sir," with mercy. I took a seat so far back the stage looked like a rumor, but the sound arrived faithful. The play was about a marriage that calls itself modern and an affair that calls itself urgent, which is to say it was about everyone alive. At the end of the first act, the scene of the product you could buy. A vial of scent on a bedside table, brand in script, a woman's wrist held to a man's face as if wrists are keys. The actor inhaled and smiled with the kind of smile that sells anything. Her wrist was Mara's wrist. The stage whispered what our bed had ignored. After the curtain call, I waited again at the alley door. The rain began in small, obedient drops. The door opened at 10:47 and crew spilled out like a minor river. She stepped into the alley and looked up, letting rain find her mouth. He slid under the stairs and opened a blue umbrella to cover both. The Pelican house glowed on the brass. She took the handle. He put his hand at the small of her back in the place where I used to put mine when rooms were complex. They walked away like a picture in a brochure. I did not follow. Instead, I went to the Beacon and ordered the cheapest beer they were ashamed to pour. The room smelled like time and ambition. Couples rehearsed the sentences they would tell their friends to turn desire into a story with context. I sat with my back to the elevator and thought of lists. The lawyer's receptionist answered on the second ring and said there was a slot at 9 the next morning. "Bring facts," she said. "Leave adjectives at home." Mara was asleep when I got back, or pretending. Her body lay on its side, silhouette familiar, breath a little fast. I showered because the rain had made an argument with my clothes. In the mirror, I looked like a man who had tried to negotiate with a storm. When I slid into bed, she turned to me, seeking warmth the way bodies do before they remember definitions. Her hand found my ribs, fingers splaying into their old formation. She moved closer with a ghost of a moan that used to be ours. I answered with my hands, but not with the part of me that gives people names. We made a shape in the dark that could not be translated back into us. After, she whispered, "Stay," which was either a command or a test. I stayed and studied the ceiling until morning. The lawyer's office is over a cobbler. The waiting room smells like leather and weather. "Outcome or scene?" she asked, not looking up until she had to. "Outcome," I said, because cruelty is cheaper than revenge in the long run. "Then you need simple things with sharp edges," she said, pushing a pad toward me. "Dates, dollars, doors, witnesses who love you, and at least one person who will tell you to sit down and drink water." "I have Zoya," I said. "Good," she said. "Zoya sounds like water." I invited Zoya and Mara's brother for dinner on Sunday under the pretext of menu testing. I cooked too much and put the wrong playlist on purpose. Mara texted at 7:52 to say she would be a bit delayed transport. At 8:33 she arrived, hair drizzled, cheeks bright, the blue umbrella under her arm like a mascot. She held it out to me in front of them. "Look what I found in the closet," she said, eyes lit with the bravery of being too late to hide. I held it by the handle and saw myself in the brass. "Lost and found," I said. After pie, when the plates made the table look busy enough to hold the weight of what we were about to put on it, I set the umbrella down and next to it placed a printed screenshot of our lock log, 0238, entry, unknown key. Zoya looked at her hands the way people do when they're about to see something they can't unsee. Her brother crossed his arms in a muscle memory of protection. Mara's eyes held mine like a person at a cliff. "We should talk privately," she said evenly. "We will," I said. They left. We stayed with objects. "I went to the theater," I said, and the sentence made the apartment's echo sound like a stage. I saw your wrist on a table with a name printed under it. I saw a blue umbrella open in an alley. It had a hotel I didn't go to. She sat down and placed her fingers on the umbrella's handle and then lifted them, as if the brass might burn. He was supposed to be a hallway, she said, not a room. She looked toward the bedroom like it owed her a story. Then the hallway kept turning and I didn't want to reach the exit yet. She swallowed. He's separating, it's true, a son, 10. Do you love him? I asked, because someone had to hire the word. She stared at the ceiling the way people look up when they want gravity to do the deciding. I love not explaining myself to him, she said. He met me at full volume and didn't ask to turn the knob. She looked back at me and did not cry. I loved us like a house, she said. But then I started living under the stairs. We're going to separate, I told her. The sentence slotted into the evening with the click of something designed to fit. She nodded and a small part of her face relaxed as if a muscle had been clenching a sentence for weeks. Do you want the umbrella? She asked, almost smiling. I want the truth to stop using props, I said. And then, because I'm petty, I added, you can keep it. You'll need it near the coast. She packed in under an hour, which told me the real packing had taken months. She took a sweater, a book with underlines that will never be mine to read, the camel coat, and half the basil. At the door she touched my wrist with the ghost of the old code, thumb press, and withdrew before contacting, the kindest and cruelest thing she could have done. I was happy, she said. I was bored, I was afraid, I was greedy. You were alive, I said. So am I. He wrote to me on Monday at 4:17 because the universe enjoys symmetry. He used a corporate account to tell me he respected my position and hoped we could proceed with mutual discretion. He said he was taking space from his role. I forwarded the email to the lawyer and to Zoya, who sent back, block, breathe, boil water. I boiled water and poured it over pasta and let steam right the kitchen's weather. There is a quiet that arrives after removal. The bed learned my shape again. The pillowcases wrinkled because I refused to iron them for a week. The basil wilted and then decided against it. I changed the Wi-Fi password to something with the words bridge and sway because I wanted our router to hold truths the way cables do. I ran by the river, and the river pretended to be silver for anyone willing to believe. I went once to the Pelican House, not to haunt but to collect weather. The lobby wore white like a boast. I took a poolside seat under a white umbrella not as blue as the one in our closet. Couples performed being together with charming competence. The sea lifted and set itself down. I ordered a cheap beer the bartender hated and drank it with the dignity of a man who understands that dignity has nothing to do with price. When the decree arrived, thick paper with a sound when it landed, I stood in the kitchen and held it like a certificate in a language I didn't read until now. I put fresh sheets on the bed and smoothed them until my palms warmed. I took the blue umbrella and hung it on a nail inside the hall closet where the winter things go. It looks ordinary in the dark. Sometimes I open the door and the brass catches a line of light and throws it back at me like a small, polite blade. Sometimes I close the door and walk away. She texted on a Wednesday, "Thank you for not making me a villain when I was already failing at being a person." I typed and erased, and then wrote, "Thank you for not asking me to live in your hallway." She sent a picture of a rented room with a window full of sky, a plant on the sill trying to be upright. I sent a picture of the river pretending to be silver again. We did not wish each other happiness. We wished each other whether we could stand. I still think of her ankle, hooked behind my leg at night like a line someone throws from one boat to another. I remember the smell of hot rosemary and late cotton, and the way a lamp makes a collarbone into a promise. The body keeps a ledger of the times it was answered. Some nights I read from the ledger and then close it on purpose. I make tea. I step onto our small balcony, and allow the city's honest noise to be my cover. Last week the rain returned without text. I opened the closet and took the blue umbrella and walked to the market. A woman asked me where I bought it, and I said, "Inheritance," which is not a lie exactly. On the way back, a gust lifted the umbrella and tried to turn it and me inside out the way grief prefers. I held on. The ferrule glinted with the hotel's name. For a moment the brass threw a thin line of light across my cheek, like the stage lights used to draw on faces when I did that brief life backstage. I closed the umbrella at my door and shook off the drops and stood it in the corner like a well-trained guest. I ate fruit over the sink like a bachelor and then rinsed the bowl and set it to dry at an angle that pleased no one but me. The apartment held the kind of quiet you cannot buy at the coast. The bed waited like a sentence with no subordinate clause. I lay down and pressed my thumb to my wrist where the old code used to land and found only my pulse saying the simplest thing. "Here," it said. "Here." And for once the room answered back, accurate and committed, and the latch caught on the first try.